What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at Italy versus Belgium and how Italy beat the golden generation of Belgium. So let's get right into Italy's offensive phase, but before we do that, please check out my book. It's on Amazon. There's links in the description below to it, and if you're interested in blog articles, check out my Medium blog. There's also a link to that in the description below. So a bunch of places I've been producing content, trying to keep it free and accessible to everyone. So be sure to check those things out. Follow me on Medium. That would be a huge help, but let's get right into the analysis. So with Italy, they played with two central defenders, but this was oftentimes created into a back three in the offensive phase, with their fullback coming into a deeper position. But from here, the fullback often played deeper and much wider than a traditional fullback. So this gave the first line of connections asymmetry to then progress around the opposing team's block. It also dragged Belgium out into wider areas, leaving more space for central players like Jorginho and Marco Verratti, who had a little bit more mobility going forward, which often saw Jorginho as the lone pivot, operating among the second line of build-up. And this gave them the potential to create numerical superiority, because as the Belgian players would be attracted to go and press with their front three, they would press man-to-man. It would then create Jorginho as the free player between the lines in a deeper position, and gave him a big responsibility to try and break the lines and create superiority, using him as the free man in a very central position. Here we have the same picture, just a different camera angle. So we have our two central defenders and our asymmetric fullback playing in a deep position, creating an off-centered back three against the front three of Belgium. And just ahead of the ball here, now we see a three-man midfield shape from Italy, and Italy in this game went with more of a three-man shape than asymmetric midfield box. And this was partly due to the use of the wide players in the left-sided wide area. With dual width being played on the left side, it gave them more movement. It gave them more potential for movement into space between the lines, making it hard for Belgium to try and defend this. And it gave them more potential to create overloads in these spaces, as we see here, highlighting the spaces that would be overload between the lines should rotation occur from the wide area. This differs from on the weak side, because if we check out just the three-man wide structure on the left side, that was mainly used to create overloads and try and progress through via numerical superiority. Relatively easy progression up the field and uncontested dribbling, which would then allow them to progress into the next third of the field. Belgium looked to stop this with a 3-4-3 or a 5-2-3, depending on how you want to judge the wingbacks. I usually consider the wingbacks as defenders, just because that's relatively how they're considered, but the height of them did vary based on a few different factors, one being the fullbacks and the positioning of the interior midfields of Italy. With the 3-3 build-up now, we can start to see where Italy looked to create numerical superiority. So with the front three actively looking to go and press, we can see Jorginho would only be taken out of the picture via a Belgian cover shadow, which would give him the potential for blindside movement because of the interior midfielders pinning the double pivot of Belgium. If Belgium were drawn out too early and their wide players pressed the two central defenders, this gave Italy the opportunity to progress via their fullback deep in the wide area and pretty much almost creating him as an uncontested form of progression. The midfield three would also help make this possible with their pinning of the double pivot, which pretty much held these two players to their position and didn't allow them to jump into more advanced positions to try and win the ball higher up the field. We also see dual width being created, and the potential for these players to move more narrow and overload the space between the lines is very high, and this is a concept they did quite often. Now showing the same picture, but showing how easy progression can become for Italy if the forwards try and cheat and press too vertically without using their cover shadows properly. So we have our two central defenders with our fullback and are jumping forward to go and press the ball, but now we can look and we have a free player, and this could cause a chain reaction to then create a 3v2 higher up the field, and looking to attack the wide areas of the Belgian defensive structure with players getting caught out. With Jorginho being the lone pivot and acting as such in most cases, we see more freedom from Marco Verratti and Insigne to vary their positions in advanced areas, which often led to overloading the space between the lines, especially on this left-hand side. We see Verratti and Insigne both favoring the left-sided half space while looking to occupy the space between the lines with 3 players, which made it much harder for Belgium to defend against, and as we can already see, it prompted wide central defenders to jump into advanced areas and vacating space in between the lines and vacating space in behind, as we've highlighted here. Now the same picture we just start to see with even now Jorginho positioning himself between central defenders to create natural staggering and overloading the space between the lines. We then see a more vacated weak side, which then they can easily progress through and try and drag out the offensive structure or take advantage of imbalances within the defensive shifting methods. Belgium, they started the game in a 3-2 build-up shape with 2 attacking midfielders through the half spaces and their wing-back screen width with Romelu Lukaku in a more advanced forward position. This was countered by Italy's 4-1-4-1 or 4-5-1 depending on where on the field they are, but we see Jorginho playing between the lines as the lone pivot in the defensive phase, and Chiellini and Bonucci playing as central defenders with fullbacks in their defensive phase on either side of them. So here's a perfect picture of the Italian 4-1-4-1 shape, and this is compared to the Belgian 3-2-4-1 shape with 3 central defenders, 2 holding midfielders, attacking midfielders trying to play between the lines and break the Italian defense, which I thought they could have done more of. They did have their chances in the match, but with the amount of space and with Jorginho playing between the lines, I felt that this space could have been exposed because of Jorginho being somewhat of a liability in the defensive phase. But when the Italian structure was very compact, as we see here, often the wingbacks were the vacated players, which would allow them to receive the ball and potentially even create a two versus one situation with the interior midfielder running beyond and the wingback drawing out the fullback to access the space in behind them. In the build-up, they had similar structure, but they were just a little bit more extended, and this forced Italy to change how they defended higher up the field. Oftentimes, midfielders from the 4-1-4-1 in central positions would jump, as we see here, would jump to gain access to the double pivot, while the front 3 of Italy looked to press the back 3 of Belgium and take out the other central midfielder with a cover shadow. This could leave potentially a free player between the lines if Jorginho and the other central midfielder Verratti were on the same page on the space they're covering. Jorginho is just off our screen here because he has the responsibility of shielding the 2 center backs, but still having the ability to then jump in certain situations so a player free wouldn't appear between the lines, as we've seen here. When Belgium started chasing the game in the latter stages of the match, they still went with their back 3, but they changed to more of a 3-man midfield, giving Witzel the role as the holding midfielder and the players alongside him more freedom to move into advanced positions. They also went with more of a 2-forward strike partnership to try and pin all 4 defenders of Italy with less players, in hopes of trying to create space between the lines by undoing the vertical compactness of Italy. As it didn't work out that way, Italy were able to hang on, kill off the game, and that's the analysis, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like and subscribe to the channel, I'd hugely appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.